Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, and today I've got a quick bonus video for you all. This is also a follow-up video to a video I did about a month ago, I think, where I was talking about the differences and changes I've seen to Toyota's supply chain with regard to the parts content in their Japanese-made vehicles. Now, I'm not going to rehash all of that here in this video. If you want to see and listen to all of that, I will link the video, the original video, here in this video and as well down in the description below. So if you want to go watch that now or after you watch this one, you can do that. But the long story short of that video was Toyota and Lexus both used to be very unique in the way that when a car was made in Japan, 99.95% of the time, it would have 100% of its major parts content also from Japan. And that was a big draw for a lot of us, you know, my subscribers, myself included. We would always look for cars that were made in Japan because the tolerances for quality control were tighter or higher. They would get checked a little bit more rigorously just because that's the culture of manufacturing in Japan. And over the lifetime of the vehicle, you'd have fewer squeaks and rattles, things would be put together a little bit better, surfaces were nicer, just kind of everything was a little bit elevated versus a car that maybe was made in Canada or the United States or Mexico or what have you. The big difference that we're seeing now, and that I was seeing at Toyota, and that's what that original video was all about, was I was seeing a big drop in that percentage of major parts content coming from Japan. It was no longer 100, it was more like 70%. So anyway, with all that being said, a lot of you guys wanted me to go over and check out LEXUS and see if this is now the same case with certain LEXUS products. So today I took in my wonderful, amazing GX460 for its 2-year service, and I do have a video on 2 years of ownership with this amazing car. As soon as I can get my poop in a group and get that edited and uploaded, you will see that here on the channel at some point. But anyway, took the car in for its 2-year service, and while I was there, I had a poke and play around in some of their new cars, and I was walking the lot just to see what I could see. And I did check out the 3 vehicles that you all had kind of asked me to look at. So I looked at today the LX, the GX, and the NX. And I'm happy to report, at least on 2 fronts, the LX and GX are still final assembly in Japan, and the stickers do say 100% of major parts content in those vehicles is still, originates in Japan. So good news there, and I wouldn't expect anything less with the LX and the GX, because even though they're not named Land Cruiser here in our market, one of them is a Land Cruiser 300 series, the other one is a Land Cruiser 250, and just part of the Land Cruiser DNA, to me, has always been, that final assembly in Japan with 100% major parts content from Japan. Part of the reason I bought this GX, and the reason I love it so much, and the reason I've always loved the 4Runner and FJ Cruiser and so on. So those 2, all good. No worries there yet. Now let's talk about the NX. And there was one kind of big surprise, and then one huge surprise, and let's talk about that now. Okay, so here's the first NX that I looked at. Now this one was made in Cambridge, Ontario. Many RAV4s and NXs do come from Cambridge, so that was not a big surprise. And when cars come from any of the North American or Mexican plants, it's kind of a given that you're going to have parts content from all across the globe. So we're not going to focus on that for this car. What was interesting though, and I wish I had some point of reference from the past to refer to, but what is interesting here is that we're seeing engine and transmission from both Japan and the US. I don't know if that was always the case, because I just recall, even when a car was made here, the engine and transmission both came from Japan, were shipped over to Cambridge, Ontario, and then put in the car. Now we're seeing that change, but I can't say definitively that that is a new thing. So take that as you will. Okay, now let's look at an NX that was actually made in Japan, and this is the first surprise that I had for today. So on this NX, what we're seeing is, again, final assembly point still in Japan, but now with this NX, even though it was made in Japan, we are starting to see Japanese major parts content being the minority, or less than half of the major parts content in this car. So this is about 45%, which means more than half of the major parts content in this car came from elsewhere, North America, other plants around the world, etc. So that was rather interesting to see here, and it does look like, again, in certain cases, Lexus is following in Toyota's footsteps, like we saw with the RAV4, where again, they are blending parts from different supply chains around the world. So if that matters to you, do take note. Okay, now this was the big, like the huge surprise, and I need to go dig more into this, and I'll make a third follow up if I if I can find more information about this. But what we're looking at here is an NX 450h Plus. So this is basically a RAV4 Prime, or what they now call the plug-in hybrid. And like my RAV4 Prime, right, one of the reasons I love that car is because it was 100% Japanese parts content, final assembly point in Japan. Now this one still has final assembly in Japan, but really, really interesting here, and this is a first. So we didn't see this at Toyota, but I am seeing this now at Lexus. 10% of the NX plug-in hybrid's major parts content is actually coming from China. Now, that in itself is not super surprising because China is, in many ways, ahead of the US in terms of its battery technology, in terms of its plug-in hybrid technology, and things of that nature. So that could be why we're starting to see this. And of course, Toyota's got GAC Toyota is the main kind of Toyota entity in China. But we also saw early this year that Toyota broke ground on its first actual, like, wholly owned by Toyota plant in Shanghai, China. It's going to be a Lexus plant. Are they bringing in parts from other Chinese, manufacturing facilities to test out quality in a North American product? Possibly the case. But any way you look at it, really, really fascinating that in this kind of flagship NX product, the NX 450h Plus, which again is the top of the line for the NX, just like the RAV4 Prime or PHEV is top of the line for the RAV4 line, that we're seeing 10% of parts content now coming from China. This also makes me a little bit nervous or concerned maybe about the new RAV4 plug-in hybrid, so the new 6th generation RAV4 that's about to hit our market. Are we going to see major parts content in that coming from China? And here, let me be very clear, by the way, about this. I am not xenophobic or, racist or anything like that against the Chinese. I have no problem with some of these parts coming from China, especially if, again, they can be more advanced or be better, in any way than what you could get in North America or Japan, because China is ahead in, just EV technology in general. My problem with all of this, so not just the Chinese part with what we're, with this NX, but also the fact that we're seeing these way more global cars, if you will, with more, foreign parts content. My problem is that Toyota, while doing this, and this is, without a doubt, is making cars cheaper to produce for Toyota. So that is padding their profit margin on these cars. At the same time, and this is where my issue with all this lies, at the same time that they're doing that, they're also jacking up the prices of these cars. So if you don't already know, for 2026, the NX is getting a pretty significant price hike in terms of, like, feature availability and what comes standard on what model. Now, Toyota was very, very clever, I'll say, in the way that they kind of told this story. So, for example, in the past, any Toyota hybrid SUV was by default always all-wheel drive. Now, NX and RX hybrids and RAV4 hybrid as well for this next generation are going to come standard with front-wheel drive. If you want all-wheel drive, that's going to be an additional option or trim level or package that will cost you more. So that's not actually the price coming down, it's the car being decontented to achieve a lower price. So again, Toyota is now a company that is all about profits and all about padding those profits in any way possible. Are the cars still reliable and stuff? Sure, most of them are. But the quality of the product that you're getting is not the same as what you used to get with Toyota. And like I said in my original video about all this parts content stuff, the most informed consumer out there is gonna really do their homework and see what they're actually getting for the price that they're paying for these things. And this is a big part of that story that I think more people need to pay attention to and that I think needs to be told. So anyway, there's that. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments or email me at the email that you see here on screen. I always appreciate it. And I will see you guys again whenever I get my poop in a group with the 2-year in review of my beloved GX460, which I'm going to have to keep now for the rest of my life. That was always the plan, but even more so now because of all this nonsense that we're starting to see from Toyota and Lexus. So yeah, see you in that one. Until then, have a great one and take care.